And I am so grateful to you hypervigilant thinkers out there who are enjoying these assessments of global issues, which are mysteriously affecting hundreds of countries around the world at the same time, almost as though some of these events have been long in the planning. Anyway, I, for one, need this space to get this stuff off my chest, because doesn't it feel right now that so many technological, financial and social changes, which were crazy rumours only a short while ago, are now suddenly racing towards us, smacking us in the face daily? The future is quite literally hurtling in our direction. It's like whack-a-mole, trying to keep each new threat down. Although I personally feel there is some hope that President Trump in Washington might just be the hammer that we need to kill the pack of privacy-devouring rats nibbling at the edges of humanity. I remind you of the words of then Digital Minister Matt Hancock in 2017 in the UK. This was long before he became the COVID pandemic circus master here. And he was introducing the World Economic Forum president and textbook baddie Klaus Schwab onto stage to deliver a speech on the fourth industrial revolution. And Hancock said, with a touch of libidinous glee, "If you don't like change, I have bad news for you." He wasn't freaking kidding, was he? Bizarrely, even though it was written all over the government website, you couldn't even mention the fourth industrial revolution without people laughing into their sleeves about this conspiracy nonsense. Any mention on social media would see you get a strike or a ban, almost as if there were forces beyond our comprehension ready to quell such irresponsible, critical thinking. So much has changed since Hancock launched this WEF initiative of tech innovation and control. But like slowly boiled frogs who swim around until they slowly die, we have barely noticed the QR code ordering, self-checkout face filming, cash eradication, and free speech suppression. If the government had turned up the heat too quickly, like the proverbial frogs, we would have leapt out of the tank going, "We are freaking not having any of that." But it's been a slow, subtle simmering over 4.5 years. We're nearly halfway to that 2030 UN deadline. So in order to not boil alive, let's see what's happened this week so we can all try and stay awake. Right, straight off the bat, the COP29 UN, them again, climate change conference, global leaders gathering to swap ideas about saving the planet, all from the goodness of their hearts and not because there is immense money to be made and control to be had, of course. Well, Mukhtar Babayev, the president of COP, came out this week and slam-dunked another conspiracy theory into the back of the net by writing in the Guardian newspaper, always the left-wingers, isn't it, that the climate crisis must be treated with the same urgency as COVID was. He says that with COVID-19, advanced economies marshalled $8 trillion over the course of just 48 months to support their citizens and businesses. The challenge of the day was met, he says. We must treat climate change with the same urgency. Is he completely mad? Have these people learnt nothing? All of the global financial dire straits in which we now struggle are because of that $8 trillion found down the back of the sofa or freshly printed to hand out to people drinking rosé in the garden at midday. Rather enjoying the climate change, if I might add. We have, today, rampant inflation, subsequent high interest rates, a record number of people unemployed, unprecedented hospitality establishments closing down, all because there was a needless global panic. Let's not have another. In spring 2020, people in the oil and gas industry were saying quietly, of course it was the pandemic, you weren't actually allowed to say what you really thought. These guys were saying that the UN, the WEF, even the World Health Organization were already crossing their fingers in anticipation of eco-lockdowns in the future. I did not believe those fearmongers at the time. What a load of bollocks, I thought. Nobody would ever agree not to drive their car just because the government tells them they've used too much diesel this week. The good old days of ignorant bliss. But sure enough, The zeal with which certain vested interests wanted us locked up for flew with a marketing campaign are now weaponising the BBC's favourite topic, the climate crisis, with a nudge nudge here and a nudge nudge there. And remember, Italy's vaccine passport wasn't a health pass or a COVID certificate. Italy just missed out the middleman. They went straight for the green pass on day one. This digital pass was needed to access restaurants, bars, museums, other public venues, of course. Why did they call it green? That's not about health. Let's be honest, none of it was ever about health. The green pass was quite clearly a stepping stone to killing two birds with one stone, or two freedoms with one pass. Over at COP, authoritarian leading power trippers are using the very same tactics for climate change as we saw with COVID. The moral panic, the urgent calls to action, the end is nigh predictions, the finger pointing at anyone who dares to question the one-sided narrative. And fear, yet again, is their weapon. We've got a whole generation of children going to bed at night having nightmares about rising sea levels and sweating polar bears. Just like you'll kill granny, now it's you'll kill yourself and all your mates if you don't force mummy and daddy to buy an electric car or dare to think about taking 2 overseas holidays a year. And under this pressure, this horrible, metastasizing, endless reiteration of imminent death, the next generation will happily give up their basic freedoms. Who wouldn't? But let's pull some threads together here. Because while we're all looking at the UN COP willy-waving jamboree, something even more sinister is happening right under our noses here. And organisations such as the superb London-based Big Brother Watch are screaming into the void about the dangers of facial recognition technology, which is being normalised without any public debate or scrutiny. Facial recognition, as we walk down the street, is a massive invasion of our privacy. Big Brother Watch explain that the police and private companies in the UK are increasingly using facial recognition technology to monitor, categorise and track us. The technology works by creating a face print of everyone who passes in front of the camera, processing biometric data as sensitive as a fingerprint, often without our knowledge or consent. This dangerously authoritarian surveillance is a threat to our privacy and freedoms, they say. It has no place on the streets of Britain. Which brings us nicely onto events in Australia, where social media is about to become illegal to anyone under 16. Here they are discussing it at the interestingly named Senate of the Environment and Communications Legislation Committee.
Of course, if you're testing to see if someone's 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, you're also testing to see, by definition, if they're 16 plus. So if there's going to be age verification, everybody is going to have to go through an age verification process, won't they? Yes. Yes. So this isn't just about the privacy or collecting data about kids. This is literally everybody accessing social media. That's how it has to work, isn't it? Yes.
Senator Shoebridge, you just used the term age verification. You may not have been in the room when we had a discussion about the distinction between age verification and age assurance. This is an age assurance trial.
This is, if you're going to have age assurance for kids 13, 14, 15 or 16, testing, if they're that age, you're testing everyone's age, and you're doing it at that level of age assurance. And that has privacy and data protection implications for literally everybody accessing social media, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we've commissioned consumer research to look at consumer willingness and particular aspects that are important to them.
That was Senator Jenny McAllister, the Minister for Emergency Management, explaining how online identity will, arguably, some would say, become mandatory. And guess what Jenny's background is? Until July of this year, she was Assistant Minister for Climate Change and Energy. Amazing, isn't it? I find the psychology of people like her absolutely fascinating. Doesn't she stop and think what these restrictions will mean for everyone in the future, including her own 2 children? And I think that space where personality collides with immense decision-making power is so interesting. It's actually one of the reasons why committees are a good thing, so that rampant authoritarians don't get to scribble on a pad and mess with their phones or answer in whispers until all of our freedoms are signed away. I once had a chat with a media personality who was hugely in favour of nobody having anonymity online, and eventually confessed, after I'd given them a bit of grilling, that she wanted to know if her own husband looked at porn online. Anyway, I digress. How will Australia test your age to go on social media or other websites for adults? See above anecdote. They're not going to trust you to punch in your birth date. They're going to scan your face. AI assessing through your camera phone whether you have enough wrinkles to be over 16 or not. Your face, and therefore your name and address, is then tied to whatever you watch or say online. Just think how utterly transforming that would be to your use of the internet. All of this, the Green Pass, the push for climate lockdowns, the expansion of surveillance technology, it's all part of this bigger picture. The Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, whatever you want to call it, we are in it. A concerted effort to reshape our society, and not, you might agree, for the better. Just like COVID, the climate crisis, the social media crisis are just Trojan horses ushering in a new era of control and restrictions. And once you're in that digital prison, there will be no exit ramp. The problem is, will we comply? I love X. I love YouTube. I love Instagram. But do I love these means of communication enough to surrender my privacy so completely? Especially when I might be saying or researching topics that the government of the day deem mal-information. Honestly, I don't know what I will do when that day comes, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Look, we know the playbook. We're seeing how the COVID story is starting to disintegrate under scrutiny. We've seen how the lockdowns cause more harm than good. I like to think we wouldn't fall for the same tricks again, but millions did before, and maybe they will now. Millions of people are currently standing idly by while a surveillance state is built around us. We must still question everything we hear from the establishment media. We need to fearlessly bring these issues up in conversation. We need to support organisations by Big Brother Watch and the Together Declaration in the UK that are fighting against the expansion of surveillance technology. Make your voice heard in local council meetings when they try to implement new green policies that infringe on your freedoms. It's okay to say, I don't want a low traffic neighbourhood. And for heaven's sake, do not comply with any attempts to implement climate lockdowns or carbon rationing. Remember, we are many and they are few. When we stand together, we are an unstoppable force. They may have the establishment media, the tech giants, and the political elites on their side, but we have something far more powerful, the truth. Trump's upcoming presidency, surrounded as he is by such a valiant team of freedom warriors, should give us hope. Robert Kennedy on health, Tulsi Gabbard on defence, Elon Musk on free speech, Vivek Ramaswamy on civil liberties. It really is the dream freedom team. It can seem that when we think we've won one battle, another one begins. It is exhausting. I know that. But privacy, freedom, and truth are worth defending. It means being eternally awake, always ready to stand up for what's right. Let's keep our eyes open, our minds sharp, and our voices loud. We can still care about the planet, buy less, waste less, look after our oceans, even insulate our homes. We can do all of that while still pushing back against the climate alarmism and the erosion of our civil liberties. Because if we don't, we might wake up one day to find ourselves in a world where our every move is tracked, our every decision scrutinised, all in the name of saving the planet. Don't have nightmares.